Hello everybody, this is JPC 63.9 and welcome back to another round of the GPC. Now the GPC has gotten very intense recently. A lot of the games in this round, week 3, were all huge blowouts. So I was curious as to how my game would go against old friend of mine, Ritchie. He worked with me on the DDT2 server. Really cool guy. You go check him out. His channel will be down in the description, but regardless, I was really interested with his team because his team has a lot of big threats and a lot of big bulk, primarily in his megas and in a few of his other Pokemon, but I was horrified at his team. But thankfully, I ended up pulling through with a victory I'm not proud of, but it was a victory. So anyway, we're just going to dive into this team, the analysis of the team. So what happens is I predicted with this round that he would bring Mega Venusaur, Togekiss, Infernape, Skarmory, Salamence, and Heliolisk. I was thinking that with his Infernape and his Heliolisk, he could easily get a U-turn Volt switch, so a Volt turn strategy going against my team. He would have Skarmory there for physical defense, Salamence for sweeping, Togekiss for general nuisanceness, and Venusaur to wall me out, hardcore setup statuses, stuff like that. And I did get 3 of his team members correct, but I didn't get the other 3, so actually, no, I got 4 of them correct, but regardless, I predicted those team members, but he ended up bringing his Uxie instead of his Togekiss, and his Milotic instead of his Heliolisk, so he brought a lot more bulk than I was expecting, because I guess he was afraid of my wall breakers, because I know I have a lot of wall breakers on this team. So regardless, for this team, for this round of the GPC, I ended up bringing a few different team members than I had in the previous game. I brought back the Gangbang Brothers and Wings from round 1. I brought Muscle Men, who has now been in all 3 rounds because he is a amazing crutch. I brought Oddjob and Y2K, and then for her finale, her grand entrance, I brought La Hechicera, or the Sorceress. I brought the Sorceress, Mega Gardevoir, to this round, because I knew that Mega Gardevoir could do a huge number to my opponent's team, because Ritchie had a lot of Pokemon that were weak to Psychic, that were weak to Electric, and I know that Gardevoir gets Thunderbolt, quite a few that would not enjoy a Fairy type attack, and maybe a few here and there that could set up a substitute on me. So I was basically really excited to use my Mega Gardevoir with this round, and we're going to get right into this battle, see how it all went down. So let's start things off. So I lead off with Y2K, and he leads with Skarm Steel, his Skarmory. So I expected this. Skarmory is a great lead, so predicting him to stay in or switch out into something faster like his Infernape, I go for a Thunder Wave. He ends up bringing in Uxie to take the Thunder Wave, so I end up paralyzing his Uxie and go out with a Volt Switch. Now, this doesn't seem like a major play right now, but in the future it's going to be huge. I really expected his Infernape to try to come on in there and Flare Blitz me, and because I know he knows, and I know, that a Rotom Mow can't really do much at all to an Infernape. So Infernape, I'm thinking, alright, I can paralyze him. Nope, Uxie. So I Volt Switch out, and I go into Drapion, and Uxie gets paralyzed the first turn it's been statused. There's so much hacks in this game, and I felt bad about it. So anyway, he gets a little bit of HP back, at least, from the damage he took, and I go for a taunt as he switches into a fucking tree, which is his Mega Venusaur. So this Mega Venusaur was scary right off the bat. That's why I brought a regular Psychic Mega Gardevoir. So I switch out Gardevoir, but he instead switches out into Dragon, the Salamence. And this thing was scary, but I knew I was pretty fast compared to a Salamence. I had max speed of my Gardevoir, so I'm thinking here, alright, what I can do, at least max speed EVs. So I'm thinking what I can do is I can go for a Hyper Voice, I can knock this thing out, and I could deal with the rest of his team, that'll be end of the game. He goes for Shadow Claw, takes me down to 20% because I gave myself an HP investment, and I OHKO his Salamence with Hyper Voice, so I'm feeling good about this. Nothing much else on his team can outspeed me. I'm feeling confident, and he goes into Mixtape the Infernape now. Now granted, I can't paralyze Infernape unless I paralyze him with Thunderbolt, and I'm not going to leave Hechicera in there to die already, because there's so much more she can do to the rest of this team. So it was a good move on his part to go for Shadow Claw, but he lost his Salamence really fast. So anyway, he brings in Infernape, and I decided to withdraw Gardevoir because I don't want her to die already, and I go into the brothers, and Mixtape is going to go for a U-turn and do a huge amount of damage to me. It slipped my mind that Ground did not resist Bug, but Bug did resist Ground, and I thought it went both ways. Turns out it doesn't go both ways, and instead, Ground does not resist Bug, so that did a lot of damage to the brothers. I had a bit of an interesting set with these three. He brings in Venusaur, and I don't really want to trap this thing, but what ends up happening is he's gonna Mega Evolve, and I'm just gonna decide, alright, well, they weren't too useful for this battle anyway, I don't need them. So I'm going to set up my Stealth Rocks, and he is going to Giga Drain the rest of the brothers' health away, so that the brothers are already down, and I'm going to bring in Gardevoir. So I'm thinking to myself, what I can do here is just go for a Psychic and deal with the rest of this Mega Venusaur, do a huge amount of damage to it. He brings in Milotic, so thinking that, you know, he's going to stay in, he could Sludge Bomb me, he could take a hit. I go for Destiny Bond. Unfortunately, he switches into Milotic, and revealing my Destiny Bond, and now he knows that I have Destiny Bond, so that's not good at all. I put Destiny Bond on there to deal with stuff that might have priority, such as the Mixtape, even though I know I can't outspeed it. So I go for Thunderbolt the next turn on his Milotic, and unfortunately he does have Mirror Coat, so that's going to take out the Sorceress a lot earlier than I wanted her to go down. So unfortunately, I have lost my major sweeper and my only big counter to Mega Venusaur. So I'm scared now, because the rest of his team can do a lot to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in Wings, and I'm going to trick over a Choice Scarf and take leftovers from it, as the Milotic is going to go for Recover. So he has been Choice Locked into Recover, and I now have leftovers on my Latios, so that's great. I switch out Latios into Rotom-Mow, who is my special wall for this game as opposed to a Scarfer, and he brings in Uxie against my Rotom-Mow. So unfortunately, you know, this battle never really was going too well in either of our favors, and in the end it was all para-hacks, unfortunately. So I'm gonna switch out with Volt Switch, and he's gonna go for a Shadow Ball. Not sure what he was predicting. He was probably predicting the Latios, but I bring in Drapion, and he takes the Shadow Ball very nicely, only taking 14% and taking a lot of that back with his Black Sludge. So Uxie gets health from his leftovers, and he goes out into his Infernape, as what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Drapion and smash this thing over the head, revealing that Mixtape had a Choice Scarf and knocking that off straight away. So there is definitely no way that I would have been able to outspeed and kill this Infernape with Destiny Bond with my Gardevoir, so that's great to know. And I've knocked this thing's item off, so it doesn't make him nearly as fast, but it does make him more vulnerable now that, you know, he doesn't have that item, and there's some things on the team now that can outspeed him, such as my Latios. So I knocked off his item, and I'm going to take out Drapion, and I'm going to go back into Conkeldurr, thinking Muscle Man could take a hit. Nope. Down 62% with one Flare Blitz. This thing must have been adamant, because it did a truckload of damage to Muscle Man in one hit. I had investment going, and my HP, a little bit, just a little. Clearly it didn't do its job that well, and Muscle Man does not take that hit well at all. So thankfully I do have the leftovers on this Muscle Man. Unfortunately, this Muscle Man build is stupid, because I expected to use this thing on a Heliolisk and sweep, and he didn't bring Heliolisk, so this Conkeldurr is going to be useless almost the entire battle, but you're going to see what happens with Conkeldurr later. So I'm going to bring back out Oddjob, And Skarmory's Steel is going to be back on the field. I'm going to go for Taunt, and he's going to try to go for a Brave Bird. So trying to get off as much damage as he can on this thing. Unfortunately, Brave Bird isn't going to do crap to my Drapion. Drapion is very bulky when you want him to be. When you set him up a certain way, he can be a very, very good physical wall. So I go for a knockoff and remove the Skarmory's leftovers, and she's just going to go for another Brave Bird. So at this point, Ritchie's just trying to get off as much damage as he can on Odd Job, and I'm just going to go for another knockoff, predicting him to maybe switch out because he realizes he can't do much to me. But no, he's just going to keep going for Brave Bird. I guess he realized at this point that this Skarmory was death fodder. Just to be sure he doesn't go for anything sneaky, I go for another Taunt. And he tried going for Defog to get rid of his Stealth Rocks, but that's not happening because I just taunted him. So Drapion is putting in a very nice amount of work here. I'm going to pull him out, and I'm going to bring in Y2K to try to Volt Switch this thing to death. See what he wants to do with it. He goes for a Brave Bird, and it does quite a bit of damage, but not too much damage. So thankfully, it's not an insane amount. So I'm going to Volt Switch. It is going to knock out Skarmory, so that big physical wall threat is down. So now I can use Conkeldurr and Drapion to their fullest extent. Unfortunately, they're not too strong against the rest of his team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out Latios by that Volt Switch, because Latios is the most adept to take whatever he sends in. What it isn't adept to take is a Milotic, so I'm just going to go for a Draco Meteor on this thing. Out of fright. I'm scared of this Milotic. Milotic has always horrified me, because you don't know what it can do. It might wall you out physically, especially. It might smash you with a really big hit. So what he's going to do is go for an Ice Beam, and it's not going to knock me out, but I'm going to go for a Draco Meteor. So in the next turn, I'm going to pull out Latios, I'm going to go into Drapion, he's going to go for an Ice Beam, and I'm frozen. Karma is a pain. He's going to apologize for the Ice Beam, but thankfully I do thaw out turn 1. It's a good thing he got his hacks in now, because the Revenge Hacks is going to come back with a vengeance later. It's going to hurt. So anyway, it just gets more brutal from here. So he's going to knock out Odd Job with another Ice Beam the next turn, after I bring him down to 70% with a Poison Jab. I'm going to go for a Draco Meteor just to finish this thing off, because I'm not sure if my remaining move, being Ice Beam, will really do much to this thing. I have Ice Beam on Latios to deal with the Venusaur, completely forgetting that it had Thick Fat. So that was me being stupid right there. He's going to go out into a Uxie, which I know can set up and I know has Shadow Ball. He goes for a Substitute, as I go into Y2K. So I'm thinking, alright, well, this guy's he's going to probably try to sweep on me. Hide behind that Substitute, go for what he wants. So I'm going to go for a Leaf Storm, knock out that Substitute immediately, and he's just going to go for a Calm Mind. So then I realize I should have switched out. I don't know why on earth I stayed in. It wasn't a good plan to begin with, but I did. So Y2K, I'm going to need to Volt Switch out, and this Uxie is going to set up all over me if I don't do something about it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull Y2K out and go back out into Wings, and Uxie is going to end up going for another Substitute, and unfortunately I lost my Hyper Voice user early in the battle. This is where losing the Sorceress really scared me, because I could not handle this thing. I go for an Ice Beam, try to do what I can, and Uxie thankfully gets paralyzed behind the Substitute at +1 special attack and +1 special defense. So granted, it worked out for me in the end, but not for a lot of the battle. So what's going to happen? I'm going to go for another Ice Beam, the Substitute is going to fade, and he's going to go for a Shadow Ball, bringing me down an insane amount of health. And at this rate, I'm not really sure what else I can do, so I'm just going to go for Draco Meteor and hope it kills, but it does end up killing. So Uxie unfortunately goes down. That speed diminishing and the para, it mattered massively, because the paralyzation would have completely hindered his Infernape, but that Infernape hindrance would have only made it possible for me to kill the Infernape early on and defeat the rest of his team. So at this rate, I'm horrified. I know he can do a lot with this Mega Venusaur to the rest of my team, because I don't have a Psychic move on my Latios for whatever dumb reason. I was very much considering it. So what's going to happen? He's going to go for Sludge Bomb, and I'm thinking to myself, how on earth am I going to kill this Mega Venusaur? He's so bulky, he's fairly speedy, and that's when I realized maybe I can just paralyze the Mega Venusaur. So I'm not proud of this. I go for Thunder Wave, and he's going to go for a Synthesis, get back all his health. I'm going to go for a Pain Split after I get poisoned by his Sludge Bomb from earlier, and go for a Volt Switch, try to switch out into my Latios, see if I can get a kill, or at least a lot of damage with my Latios with a Draco Meteor or an Ice Beam. So what he's going to do, he's just going to knock out Wings with a Sludge Bomb, as the other people watching the battle are like, I'm calling a bluff, there's no way he doesn't have a Psychic move, and then I kill Wings like that. And they're saying, well, GG, Ritchie won. At this rate, I agree with him. I thought Ritchie had won the game. I thought it was going to be a 2-0, and it was a great game. But that's not where it ends, because what happens is I have a Rest Talk, Bulk Up, Drain Punch Muscle Man. This is what I planned to sweep with if he brought his Heliolisk. I could get the substitute up. He could go for a Hyper Voice maybe, trying to get off some chip damage on me, because this is an Iron Fist Muscle Man instead of a Guts one. I don't know why on earth I went with Iron Fist. That was a horrible idea. I guess just to boost Drain Punch, but it wasn't a good idea in retrospective. Anyway, he goes for the Leech Seed, as I'm sitting here, rested, having Sleep Talked a Bulk Up. So, I have +1 attack and +1 defense, and I've been Leech Seeded, so I'm going to Drain Punch this thing. It's not going to do much damage, but the people in the chat are starting to go through calculations, and they tell me a +6 Drain Punch will 2-hit KO the Mega Venusaur. So at this rate, I know what I need to do, and I'm not proud of what I need to do, but I need to keep bulking up and resting and Sleep Talking and Drain Punching until I kill this Venusaur. And that's the only way how it's going to go down. So he's going to try to Sludge Bomb me, gonna Leech Seed me, gonna Sleep Powder me. He's not going to Sleep Powder me. He's going to use Synthesis. And this goes on for quite a few turns. And yes, victory is the #1 priority, but in the end, it's not really fun to stall someone out for PP usage. So unfortunately, I'm just going to keep on Sleep Talking, going to rest, going to Sleep Talk more, until he eventually pulls out his Mega Venusaur, and he goes into Infernape. As I'm down to about 6% health, and I get off another rest. So at this point, so much farther into the battle, I turn 53. I have just gone back to sleep, and I am at +5 attack and defense, and he's going to go out, try to go for close combats, get more damage on me, go for more crits, try to prevent over use of the PP on his Venusaur. And what I decided to do is, instead of, letting him have the victory, because I knew that victory was actually within my grasp now that I had reached +4 with another Sleep Talk Bulk Up. I go for a Drain Punch, being still asleep, as he goes for Flare Blitz, again trying to get the kill. Sleep Talk's not helping me, and I'm just going to go for another rest during my already sleep state. So he's just trying to kill me at this rate, and it's a sad ending on both sides of the field. We all know in our hearts that Ritchie would have won this battle, but in the end, it was me, because of the pair of hacks I got on his Venusaur, and of the pair of hacks I got on his Uxie unintentionally. I mean, I wasn't even trying to parallax the Uxie, and I ended up going for, trying to get that Infernape down, and nope, that didn't work. So clearly it worked for me in the end, but not in a way I'm proud of. So anyway, that's basically the end of the battle. What's going to happen here is, after getting up another rest and reaching +4, after he's already down 1 stage in attack and defense, I'm going to get off a Sleep Talk Drain Punch, and that is going to take out Mixtape in 1 shot, bringing my HP back up. And Mega Venusaur is going to go down to 2 more Drain Punches at the end of the battle. So that is going to be all for this game. Great attempt from Ritchie. We all know in our hearts that Ritchie would have won, but in terms of the score, I ended up winning in the end. I don't feel too proud about it, but in the end, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have hacks, you're going to have misplays that end up working out great, and misplays that end up turning to be total dumb. So I give him the GG, but he leaves. I'm sorry about that, Ritchie. You know, I really wish that I had actually paralyzed that Infernape instead, like I planned. If you had gone into that Infernape, maybe the battle would have ended a bit more fairly, and Y2K would have gone down sooner. So sorry about that. But that's going to be all for week 3 of the GPC. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to show Ritchie some support for that unfortunate loss of his, click that little like button down below and get ready for the next week. Also, make sure to check him out. His channel will be in the description, as well as my previous opponents from week 1 and 2, Master Swift and Heracroshot. After this week, there is going to be a draft for the GPC on team member replacements, and after a lot of consideration, I've decided what I am going to replace, and you guys will be seeing that in the GPC official draft analysis video coming soon. But that's going to be all for now, and I'll see you guys for week 4 against the Borussia Donphan. See you guys then.